She had been cheating with my husband for years and even planned to kick me out of my own house. Her confidence level is off the chart. But just one sentence will send it straight to the bottom. My name is Amara, and until a week ago, I thought my life was perfect. I didn't think it was the best in the world or without problems, but it was very good to me. Good enough is perfect because, as you'll see in a moment, life can get worse very quickly. The person who has caused me so much pain is my husband Ryan, whom I've been married to for 2 years before all of this. I was very happy with him, and we rarely had problems. He was a good boyfriend and an even better husband, which made me feel confident that I'd be with him until one of us passed away. But it turns out I was the only one who believed we were meant to be together, because my husband clearly thinks he has the right to have other relationships. I don't mean that seriously. What I mean is that obviously he's kept what he's been doing a secret, and I only found out by accident. Believe me, I love my husband a lot, and haven't given him any reason to cheat on me. I thought we were both very happy in our marriage. And since we both earn well, we also didn't have financial problems. So the question on my mind now is he doing this because he wants some excitement in his life? Or is he truly bored of me? I don't know. It's something only he can answer before explaining further. I need to tell you about someone important to this story. Brooke is someone you might call my childhood friend. She's someone I've known since I was a kid, and sometimes we still hang out together occasionally, but all of this isn't by choice because honestly, I don't like her much. Yes, she's one of the most jealous and petty people I've ever met. The surprising part is that she's always been like this. From the moment I understood what good friends and bad friends were, I knew she was almost someone I didn't need to keep close, so I've always kept her at a distance. While she's always tried to get closer to me, the problem with her was that she was always jealous of a lot of people and showed that envy even toward me. She always wanted what I had and couldn't stand seeing me get something better than her. She was bad at hiding her emotions and always got mad when I asked her to stop doing those things. Now I know the most obvious question here, right? If I had so many problems with her from the start, why is she still my friend? Well, the answer, guys, is very simple. At some point, I realized she was a toxic friend who would worsen my life, but I could never completely cut her off. That's because her parents and mine have been friends for a long time. So she's like a family member or a family friend, or even part of my family to my parents. So I couldn't just stop seeing her because she was always around at gatherings and that sort of thing. I also couldn't tell my parents that I hated her. Sometimes I felt bad because she acted like she genuinely cared, but even though I couldn't cut her off, it wasn't like we had a real friendship. I've never been the kind of person to have many friends, and since she's close to my family, she stayed in my life right now. I only have about 3 friends I consider true friends. One of them is my best friend Sophie, who I'll talk about in a moment. As I mentioned, she's pretty much the same person even now, and I just try to avoid her as best as I can, but as you know, since she's almost family, I really can't avoid her. We have a tolerable relationship, but I'm sure she's always been a little jealous of me since I ended up doing bigger and better things in life than she did. To be completely honest with you, yes, I have a better job and got married after finding what I thought was a great man. Meanwhile, she works in a small job and is always in and out of relationships, which isn't surprising if you knew her. I knew she didn't like seeing me do well in life, but I had no idea she was so jealous that she tried to destroy my marriage or take my place. I'm sure by now you figured out what's happening, but if you haven't, I discovered that my husband has been cheating on me with Brooke. She's literally the worst person he could have done this with. He's completely ruining our marriage, and I don't know what he or she hopes to gain from this affair. Anyway, let me tell you how I found out. Over the past few months, I've noticed Ryan has been a little distant with me. When I asked him, he said there was nothing wrong, that he was just stressed at work. He'd been working a lot and doing overtime occasionally. At first, I was a bit concerned, but aside from his somewhat distant behavior, nothing else happened. So I didn't give it much thought a week ago. A friend of mine told me that instead of being at work, my husband was sitting in a restaurant, almost an hour away from my workplace. My friend called me thinking I was with him and wanting to meet me. She had no idea what she had just uncovered for me. I called my husband, who told me he was at work. That's what made me sure something strange was going on. So I left work and drove to the restaurant. There I saw him enjoying a date with Brooke. As soon as I saw them, I knew it was a date and not something innocent. They looked way too comfortable together. I couldn't hear what they were talking about, but I took a picture. I thought about confronting them, but I was so shocked that I couldn't do it. I just went back home feeling completely numb. A little later, my husband called and said he was going to be working late and would get home late. I even called his coworker, who told me he hadn't gone to work that day and had reported being sick. I knew I wasn't a suspicious wife, so I'd never checked where he was going or what he was doing. He used that trust to cheat on me with the friend I despise the most. The most incredible thing about all of this is that he knew how much I disliked her. Before this, he always told me I was judging her too harshly. I always thought that was a good quality of his. I saw it as him being a kind person, but I guess he always had a soft spot for her. Obviously, after seeing them on a date, I refused to believe what I had witnessed. I tried to come up with as many excuses as I could think of. I didn't want to face the truth or admit that my marriage was over. Deep down, I knew it. But I wasn't ready yet to tell myself what was really happening. I spent the next few days watching him closely, hoping to find something that could explain it all, but the only thing I discovered was that they were definitely having an affair. I was devastated. I didn't know what to do. I couldn't confront him, and I couldn't even look at Brooke. I didn't even want to think about her. All I could think about was how the two of them could do this to me, and how he could so easily throw away everything we had built together. It's not like I had just met Ryan yesterday. We've been married for a while. How could he do this to me? I was so confused that I ended up calling my best friend Sophie and told her everything I had seen. Sophie came over and decided to help me, no matter what I chose to do. She gave me some ideas, and they were pretty good. But more than anything, I wanted to confront my husband and just put an end to it all. Sophie followed him for 2 days, and yesterday she told me she saw them entering a hotel. That confirmed it was an affair. Brooke was so jealous of me that she even went as far as taking my husband, but I don't entirely blame her, because if Ryan hadn't wanted to cheat on me, she couldn't have made it happen. If he were truly loyal, he would have stayed faithful to me no matter what. While I was trying to figure out what to do, Sophie gave me an idea. She suggested that since we didn't know enough about the affair, we should start gathering information and evidence. She suggested installing hidden cameras and audio recorders, which would help us find out what they really wanted and how I could move forward. It was a great suggestion because we both thought Brooke or Ryan might be after something more than just an affair. So I agreed to her plan, even though it meant I'd have to put up with the two of them a little longer. At this point, I want revenge for what they've done to me. Today, we installed the hidden cameras and audio recorders, and hopefully by the end of next week, we'll have plenty of information. Despite agreeing to do this, I still can't accept that my husband is cheating on me with someone like Brooke. I still don't know why he did it. I don't know if I'm making the right choice by going down this path. Am I making the right decision, or should I just confront them and expose them once I have enough evidence? Please, I'm begging you, I need your help. It's been more than a week since my last update, and I was wrong to doubt whether I was doing the right thing. You see, Sophie was right, and I'm so thankful I decided to gather evidence first. I thought that after what Ryan had done, it couldn't get any worse, but after what I heard a few hours ago, he somehow managed to make it even worse. I can't believe I married someone like him. As I mentioned, I set up the cameras and recorders and only reviewed the material today. All week I did my best to act normal. Sophie has been a great help, especially when I was so broken that pretending to be okay felt impossible. Ryan acted like he didn't care about what he was doing, but unlike him, my love for him couldn't die overnight. It was so hard watching him leave for work, knowing he was going to see her and sleep with her. I can't even describe how difficult it was not to slap him for betraying me like this. 2 days ago was especially hard because I had to see both of them in the same room. My parents were celebrating their anniversary and, of course, invited Brooke and her parents. As soon as we arrived, Brooke jumped up and hugged both of us. I couldn't help but notice the way she and Ryan looked at each other. I cursed myself for not noticing anything for months. When I talked to Brooke, it took every ounce of strength not to grab her and scream at her for ruining my life by sleeping with my husband. But I held back and managed to get through the evening. Brooke didn't show even a hint of remorse. She didn't even pretend to feel guilty when she talked to me about Ryan. It was as if she didn't feel the slightest bit of guilt for what she'd done. She even openly joked about how handsome she found him. Everyone else took it as a compliment, but I knew the truth. Somehow, I survived the party, but it was the worst night of my life. Every second felt like an eternity, and I couldn't wait to leave. After that, I counted down the days until I could finally listen to what had been happening in my own home. When the moment finally came, I almost regretted it. I told myself maybe I should have kicked Ryan out immediately, because what I discovered made everything worse. I couldn't listen to it alone, so I invited Sophie over for support. We went through the different recordings, and what we found left me speechless. The affair had been going on for nearly a year, and it was serious. My husband was seriously involved with my jealous friend Brooke, and he was even planning to leave me for her. Brooke claimed she wanted the same thing, but Sophie suspected she was only using him to ruin my life, which is hard to believe. But then we discovered something even more shocking. Not only was Ryan cheating on me and planning to run off with Brooke, but he wanted to take something from me first. The house. The reason he hadn't broken up with me yet was that he wanted to get his hands on the house we lived in. That house was a gift from my grandmother. Before she passed away over a year ago, I moved in after we got married. It's a big house that would fetch a good price if sold, so his plan was to trick me into giving him the house, sell it, and then start a new life with Brooke. When I heard this, I could hardly believe it. Not only was he leaving me heartbroken, but he was planning to deceive me into handing over something precious, something that belonged to my family, just to fund his new life with her. That confirmed it. The man I fell in love with was gone. The Ryan I married must have disappeared a long time ago. I had tears in my eyes when I found out, and Sophie helped me calm down, but then my sadness turned into rage. Did they really think they could play me like a fool? I decided I wasn't going to confront Ryan, at least not yet. Instead, I was going to give him a taste of his own medicine. I had no doubts left about what I needed to do. I needed revenge on both of them for what they'd done to me. They were going to regret ever messing with me. It's been a while since I last updated, and so much has happened. Ryan has fallen right into the trap, and right now I'm just waiting for him to make his next move. I think it's going to happen in just a few days, and when it does, he'll realize he made the biggest mistake of his life by cheating on me. And don't worry, Brooke isn't getting away with it either. She's going to get exactly what she deserves too. Ryan waited about a month before bringing up the house, and when he finally did, I acted as surprised as I possibly could. I made sure not to give him any hint that I already knew what he was plotting, and my performance was convincing enough that he believed it was genuine. Honestly, I was willing to wait as long as it took, because at that point, all I wanted was for him to feel the same pain I'd felt. So, when he finally asked the question I'd been waiting for, I still managed to fake some real surprise. I asked him why he wanted me to sign the house over to him. After all, since we owned it together, he already had a share in it, didn't he? He reassured me there was no doubt about that, but he really wanted to be the sole owner. He told me he'd always planned to buy a house after we got married and live in it, and while he appreciated that my grandmother had given us this one, he'd realized a few weeks ago that technically it wasn't his. He wanted it in his name, even if only for a few months, just to fulfill his dream of owning the place he lived in. He gave me his best pitch, saying all he wanted was to be able to say, "I'm the owner of the house I live in." Honestly, if I hadn't already known what he was plotting, I probably would have said yes right then. But to keep up my act, I told him I'd think about it. He knows I never make impulsive decisions, so he happily agreed to wait. A day later, I told him I was only making him wait for fun, that I didn't really care since we were going to be together forever, and that I trusted him completely. It was the first time I saw a hint of guilt cross his face, but he quickly recovered and assured me he'd never leave me. I'd already prepared some fake papers that looked real enough to fool him. I was terrified when he started reading through them, but in the end, he told me he trusted me and signed them without question, completely convinced that he was now the legal owner of the house. At least that's what he thought. That was yesterday, and here's what I did today. I'm pretty sure that within a few days, Ryan is going to try to kick me out or finally come clean, so I wanted to make sure everything was in place. And by everything, I mean making sure everyone else already knew what was going on. This morning, I asked my parents, my in-laws, and Brooke's parents to meet with me privately. I didn't tell anyone else, but I laid out the whole truth for them and showed them the evidence of everything that had been happening under my own roof. They were all shocked, just like I had been. They struggled to believe it at first, but once it sank in, they were furious. They wanted to go confront Ryan and Brooke right then and there, but I asked them to hold off. I wanted Ryan and Brooke to believe they'd won, to take this all the way to the end, so I could make them hurt as much as possible. I begged everyone to wait until Ryan finally made his move, which I figured would be soon. So, hopefully, in just a few days, he'd either try to kick me out or finally confess. And if everything went according to plan, it would be sweet revenge. It's been a few months, I know, and I'm sorry for the delay. So let me get straight to what happened with Ryan and Brooke. 2 days after my last update, Brooke showed up at my house with a bunch of her belongings. I asked her what was going on, and she calmly told me she was moving in. I acted a little confused, and she just laughed and told me the house wasn't mine anymore, that she'd be the permanent resident now. I told her to drop the act, and she actually had the nerve to tell me to call Ryan myself. Before I could, Ryan walked in from running errands and looked genuinely surprised to see Brooke there. I don't think this was part of their plan, at least not yet. But since the secret was already out, Ryan told me he was kicking me out, and that Brooke was moving in. He put on this whole sad guy performance, explaining how he was leaving me for her. I laughed right in his face. I told him to cut the act, because I'd known exactly what was going on the whole time. He'd been a fool to think I hadn't figured it out, just like I'd been a fool to ever trust him in the first place. Then I made the call. Within minutes, my parents, my in-laws, and Brooke's parents were all standing in the house. Ryan and Brooke were stunned to see them, and even more stunned to realize everyone already knew about their little scheme. My father-in-law slapped Ryan across the face and told him he wasn't the son he'd raised. Brooke's mother did the same to her, demanding to know how she could betray someone who'd been like a sister to her. Brooke got defensive, insisting that she and Ryan were going to be together and that nobody could stop them. That's when I dropped the bomb. I laughed and told her the house was still mine. I had never actually signed it over to Ryan. The color drained right out of her face. Ryan realized in that instant that I'd played him. He started begging for forgiveness, but I slapped him and threw him out. Brooke left on her own once she realized she might be next. It felt incredible, giving them a taste of their own medicine, the lies, the betrayal, all of it thrown right back at them. I know some people might not approve of how I handled my revenge and think I should have just confronted them outright. But now I don't just have my revenge, I have solid proof of their affair, which means Ryan will walk away with nothing in the divorce, and neither will Brooke. I honestly don't remember how many months it's been since my last update about getting revenge on my ex-husband and ex-friend, but it's been long enough now that everything's played out. After that day, both of their lives fell apart. It was like watching one disaster after another. Ryan got kicked out of his parents' house, where he'd been crashing for a few weeks, and they ended up disinheriting him. At first, they'd accepted him back because he was still their son, but once they saw he was sticking with Brooke, despite everything he'd done, they took drastic action. As for me, I divorced him, and he walked away with absolutely nothing. It's a good feeling living in a state where cheaters pay, or, I guess, where their spouses don't have to. Once he realized he wasn't getting a dime, he came crawling back several times, begging for help, claiming he'd left Brooke. I told him I didn't care anymore, and that I'd call the police if he showed up again. As for Brooke, she lost her job. Turns out she'd been working for her uncle, and once he found out what she'd done, he fired her on the spot. Her parents disowned her too, and when she kept begging them for help, they told her they'd only forgive her if I did. She never came to apologize to me, but honestly, she didn't need to. Just knowing her life is a mess now is more than enough satisfaction for me. Maybe they should have thought about that before they started plotting behind my back. They only came looking for help once everything had already fallen apart. Now I want to respond to a comment I got that honestly made me angry just because of how ridiculous it was. The comment said something like, "I think you went too far with this. Yes, your husband and that jealous friend deserved what happened to them, but you shouldn't have done it. You should have been the bigger person and just let them live happily. I'm not saying you should have given them the house, but you could have just kicked him out and divorced him. That way, he could have married her and built a life together. If the jealous friend really loved him, which I doubt, by doing what you did, you lowered yourself to their level. Does that make you a better person than them? Or worse? I actually think that's an interesting point, and some people agreed with it, but the majority said I didn't lower myself to their level at all. None of this would have happened if Ryan hadn't been a cheater trying to trick me out of my own house. I only reacted to what they did to me. I wasn't the one who started any of this. So, what do you think? Does that make me the same as them, or not? I'm glad so many people enjoyed hearing about my revenge. Seems like there are plenty of people out there who like watching people who betray others finally get what's coming to them. But this next part goes beyond that, and it has to do with something Sophie told me recently. As you can probably guess, Brooke is far from done. Her obsession with wrecking anything connected to me is apparently still going strong, because now she's tried something new. Something I honestly never thought she'd have the nerve to try. She went after Sophie. Let me tell you how it happened. Sophie and Brooke ran into each other at the mall a few days ago. Sophie called me right after because what happened was genuinely surreal. Picture it. Sophie's calmly shopping, minding her business, and suddenly there's Brooke, my ex-friend, the traitor, the woman who slept with my husband. According to Sophie, Brooke didn't waste a second before walking up and starting some casual conversation, like nothing had ever happened between us. I guess in her head, she figured Sophie would be open to talking. Clearly, Brooke has no idea who she's dealing with. She opened by telling Sophie that things with Ryan were over and that she'd been feeling pretty lonely lately and that she was out shopping that day just to cheer herself up. As if shopping could somehow undo the disaster she'd made of her own life. She even told Sophie that her parents had cut her off, basically choosing our family's friendship over her. Sophie, of course, wasn't buying the victim act for a second. She told her straight up, maybe they did that because what you did isn't something a decent person does, let alone someone you'd want representing your family. Naturally, Brooke didn't take that well. True to form, she started twisting the story, claiming her parents hadn't rejected her because of what she did, but because they cared more about other people's friendships than their own daughter. Even after everything she'd done, she still cast herself as the victim, going on about how her parents don't really care about her, and how she's just learning to live with that now. After dropping that little gem, Brooke apparently decided it was time to turn on me, because of course it wouldn't be a real conversation with her if she didn't find some way to make it my fault. She told Sophie I'd been a bad friend, that I just couldn't handle Ryan choosing her over me. You can imagine the look on Sophie's face hearing that. And it didn't stop there. Brooke also claimed I'd always been way too competitive, and that everything that happened was because I was jealous that my ex-husband found a better woman in her. But Sophie, being who she is, didn't even flinch. She shot back immediately that there was no way I'd ever be jealous over losing Ryan to her, because there was absolutely nothing worth envying about having that man as a partner in the first place. He'd turned into a burden, and honestly, Brooke did me a favor by taking him off my hands. Here's where it got interesting. Brooke suddenly flipped her tone and actually agreed, admitting Ryan wasn't worth it. But Sophie didn't fall for that switch either. She told me later that everything Brooke was saying was pure convenience. Now that Ryan has nothing left to give her, no house, no money, no husband anymore, the only thing left she could try to take from me is Sophie. But that was never going to happen. In some desperate attempt to latch onto a connection with somebody, Brooke invited Sophie out for drinks, like they were old friends catching up. Sophie didn't bite for a second. She told her, and this is the part that makes me so proud of her, I'm not going to betray someone loyal to me for someone who gets a kick out of stabbing people in the back. Brooke obviously didn't know how to take that. She got defensive and, in some pathetic attempt to sound intimidating, told Sophie to watch out, because other girls' boyfriends tend to like me. Little did she know, Sophie isn't the type to be rattled by high school level threats. Without missing a beat, Sophie told her, with all the confidence that makes her who she is, that Brooke wouldn't get the chance to try anything because she wasn't part of Sophie's life. And if she ever did try, Sophie's fist would be getting real close to her face. According to Sophie, Brooke walked away, looking pretty shaken. Honestly, I couldn't be prouder to have someone like Sophie on my side. She didn't just stand up for me, she gave Brooke a wake-up call she won't be forgetting anytime soon. If Brooke thought she could weasel her way back into my life and take something else from me, she was dead wrong. Sophie's with me, and unlike Brooke, she actually knows what real loyalty looks like.